Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, former commander of U.S. Army Europe, now the Pershing Chair in Strategic Studies at the Center for European Policy Analysis, and he briefed Congress today as well. General, thank you very much for being here today. So obviously you have spent a lot of time in this region and know the players. When you look at what's happening right now, how do you gauge what Putin is up to?
Well, certainly. Thanks, Martha. Secretary General Stoltenberg is right. There is still a lot of capability there in and around Ukraine. The Russian General Staff has put these things in place to give the Kremlin some options. But what I believe we're going to see is a long-term continued squeezing of Ukraine. All of these land and naval forces are really like a boa constrictor that's designed to choke the economy and government of Ukraine and cause it to collapse so that Russia can achieve its aim without an attack and also without being sanctioned.
So we have a map of some of the other cities because there were some reports on social media that there was material moving to Belgorod in that area. And then there you can see Kharkiv on here and Mariupol. I hope I'm pronouncing these correctly. But obviously, they're all closer to Russia. Do you think that we could see incursions in those areas, some of which are a bit more sympathetic to Russia?
Well, actually, I think that we could very well see some, let's call them lower level, limited objective type operations, particularly along the coast of the Sea of Azov, amphibious operations, something that would cause Ukraine to have to react, but below the level of something that would guarantee sanctions. I think that the Russians have a long-term view. They have seen us get so alert to what's happening, and then they keep waiting. And then you get an announcement like, okay, we're starting to send people home. And you will remember that last spring, they did the same thing. When everybody thought there was a crisis, Minister Shoigu said, okay, exercise is over. Everybody's going back to the barracks, except nobody did. And so they have a much longer timeline in place, which is why I think this is about choking out Ukraine versus invading Ukraine.
So we heard General Milley, when he was briefing, talk about a potential fall of Kiev in 72 hours. And I know you spoke with our reporter Lucas Tomlinson from the Pentagon and said that you didn't see that kind of invasion happening. So do you think that this amassing of forces in such large numbers on Putin's side was a bluff?
Well, obviously, General Milley and the rest of the Pentagon have access to intelligence that I don't have. And I would not say this was a bluff. I would say that the Russians have put things in place to have options. But I think at this point, they see that their best option, based on what's happening to Ukraine's economy already, is to kind of continue to squeeze and allow this to happen. I mean, the Russian Navy out there is going to make sure that nothing goes in and out of any Ukrainian port. And so when I was in Kyiv 2 weeks ago, I had the chance to speak with President Zelensky, and I saw firsthand the impact of what's happening to Ukraine's economy. The American Chamber of Commerce told me, he said, every American company is coming to him saying, hey, should we leave? And this was weeks ago. So I think this is the approach that the Russians have settled on.
What do the American people need to understand about Russia's potential for cyber attacks in this country?
But we need to understand and realize who we're dealing with. These guys are not Boy Scouts. I mean, they use poison, chemical weapons against their own domestic opposition, and they use cyber to wreck societal structures, ruin people's lives, and cause us to lose trust in our own institutions. So I fully expect that whatever size attack Russia does launch into Ukraine or anywhere else, it's going to be encased in cyber, which is intended to, of course, make it difficult to make decisions, to understand what's happening, to cause disruption to transportation, to weaken air and missile defense capabilities. So this is part and parcel of how they would attack.
I know that you feel that we need to be sharper about the new capabilities that Russia has militarily and to step up to meet that challenge. In terms of a cyber attack in the United States, obviously we rely so much on our GPS for military and for civilian purposes as well. Does Russia, for example, have the ability to jam our GPS systems in this country?
I would expect so. They have just deployed a couple of capabilities that give them thousands of kilometers of reach to be able to jam different types of devices. And of course, they know how much we rely on GPS for targeting, for navigation, and other satellite-based systems that assist us in everything that we do for command and control.
So you believe that they could jam those systems in the United States if they wanted to? They have that capability?
To some extent.
Okay. General, thank you very much. I hope we can continue this conversation.